We are recording this, as Key just said. We will post it. There's one team that's in Guam. They cannot join us now. It's in the middle of the night. So we will give them this recording, and anyone else who would like to access the recording will make it available. So if some of your team members aren't able to attend, or you think they should see this, you can have them see the recording. The advantage you have by being here in person is you can ask questions, and they won't be able to do that. First of all, I want to talk about some general information. I'm going to share my screen. Can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
All right. You should recognize this as the NAD PBE general website. There's information here that we hope you will find helpful. They have things like the actual date of the event, where it's going to be, but this resource button, I think you will find helpful. So here's an interactive map of where the fairgrounds are. We are in the expo hall. There is going to be another event happening at the same time on the other end of the fairgrounds with horses and stuff. So you need to make sure you're going towards the expo hall. The parking will be paid for already. The NAD is taking care of that. So you should be able to just come in and park and come into the exhibit hall. The way it will work, and we're going to go over registration and that kind of stuff in a bit, but we hope you find this information. There's also things like schedules. This is a preliminary schedule. Friday night, we're going to be at the Mount Calvary Church for the Friday night program for Sabbath. Then we will have testing in the morning at the fairgrounds. We will have church service in the afternoon. Those of you who will purchase lunch, you will pick them up right after testing. Those of you who will getting your lunch on your own need to be back by 2. And then the awards will be at 4. Awards, well, there'll be broadcasts on Sabbath all day for those family members who can't attend, who are going to be gone, or other church members who want to see. During the testing, they will have live commentary. Obviously not answers, but they will do some commentary, and they will be covering the entire day on Sabbath, so they can go online and see what's going on. So those of you kids who mom and dad are staying home because you're the only one coming out, give them this link, give them this information so they know to come online. And I believe it'll be sourced out of the homepage, right, Keith?
That is correct. If you just go to nadpb.org, it'll be on the homepage.
On the homepage. Okay, now there are some things that you will need as a team. You need to have a laptop. We will be providing a chair and a table, but you need a laptop to plug into the power that'll be underneath your table. And we'll be providing an Ethernet cable. We will not be connecting wirelessly. We will be connecting with an Ethernet cable. If your laptop does not already have an Ethernet cable connection, and many of them do not, you need to purchase one. We sent out a letter to your directors and to your coaches with links of recommended types of connections. Your key is sharing right there. Those 3 links. If you need to figure out which kind of connection you need for your laptop, we don't know what type of device you have, and they're slightly different. Okay. So we'll be connecting hardwired in. That'll have, you'll be more stable, a less chance of dropping off. So it's very important that you bring your laptop, your extension cord, and your connector, right? We'll talk about with the monitors on what they will need in the next session. Now let's talk a little bit about registration. When you get there, you walk directly into the building. There isn't like an entry hall. It's just directly into this big, big auditorium. At the back is going to be a section. One side is for the teams to register. The other side is for the monitors to register. Okay. So your director or your coach, whoever's going to register you, goes to the table. The whole team doesn't have to go. All right. Just one person needs to go. They will pick up a packet. In the packet will be your wristbands that allow you on the floor. It'll have some spare paper that if you want to write some notes or keep track of something, that you can do that. It will have an integrity form that your director has to sign off that says the people who are coming this time are the same people who tested last time. And then if your team bought meal tickets, they will be in there also, plus a coupon for a surprise for the coach. So make sure that in that registration envelope, you get your spare paper and your login sheet. There will be a piece of paper in there for logging in. That login sheet tells you how to get into Nearpod. So I think I've covered equipment. Now the next thing is going to happen. You get to your table and your monitor shows up. Your monitor is going to want to do uniform inspection. They have a form they fill out, and they will have you stand up and they will check your uniform. They'll ask you your name and so on. You just have to be ready. If you have an alternate, that person needs to be inspected also. All right. So they won't be sitting with you at the beginning. The alternate will be sitting elsewhere, but they do need to have inspection. It's sort of similar to what we did last time. So I'm going to give the, oh, we have a hand up. Aaron.
Is there an option to not use the Ethernet cable and just connect wirelessly?
It will not be as stable. You will not have as good an experience. In an emergency, we might do that, but we are planning on everybody being hardwired in. We had problems last year with the wireless connection, so we chose this year not to do that. So you need to bring your connector. They're not very expensive, and you probably can pick them up at your Apple store or at your Best Buy if you don't want to pick them up off of Amazon. All right?
Okay, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to give the meeting over to Key, who's going to walk you through how Nearpod works.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to present this sheet. So I'm just going to kind of walk you all through what you should expect on the day of testing. There was a question earlier. So 8 a.m., all the teams and monitors will be required to arrive at the Expo Center for registration. During the registration, each team will be given a sheet of paper that looks something similar to this. On that sheet of paper will be pieces of information that identify your team and your team number, and then the Nearpod test code. Okay. So I'm going to go over that as well. So just remember that we're going to give you a sheet of paper. I know last time we had some teams that were given that manila folder with all the team papers, but some teams didn't realize that you had to actually take the paper out of the manila folder, so you didn't know exactly what to do next once you got to your station. So during registration, you're going to be given an envelope with, among other things, this sheet of paper. And then you're going to be assigned a particular, I guess, a circle or a pod of chairs with a table. And all of you will sit there. Each team will be required to bring some sort of a laptop, or maybe some teams have brought iPads in the past, but it should be a device that is able to connect to the internet and has a physical keyboard so that you can type your answers into this program called Nearpod. So when you sit down, all of you guys will sit down at the table, and then you'll plug in your laptop to two things. One is power. There will be at every station or every grouping of teams, there will be a place where you can plug in your computer, your laptop, to a power outlet. That's one, so that your computer doesn't run out of power during testing. Two, one thing that's different, as Marilyn said earlier, this year than it was last year is instead of connecting to the Wi-Fi, we're going to have an Ethernet cable that is available for each team. You will connect that Ethernet cable to your computer using one of these adapters. So you'll know on the laptop you're bringing, it'll have this side of it, the Ethernet side is going to be the same for everybody. It should say it should be some sort of Ethernet adapter. But the other side of it is going to be something like this, where it's kind of a rectangular one. This is USB-A. It may look something like this. This is USB-C. And that's for like maybe a lot of MacBooks have this type of connection. And then if you happen to bring a iPad, there's this type of a cable where it has a lightning connector on one side and then the Ethernet cable on the other. And then you might be able to plug in your power adapter on here. Okay, so once you get to your table and you sit down and you plug in your laptop to power, and then you plug in your laptop to Ethernet, you will be instructed to go to nearpod.com, which is a website. So then you would open up a web browser and go to a website called nearpod.com. And for those of you that want to, you can join that right now. Okay, if you just go to nearpod.com, the first screen you'll be presented with is a screen that looks something like this. In here, what you're going to be instructed to do on that sheet of paper, today is different, but on that paper, it's going to say, hey, enter in this Nearpod test code. For today, the Nearpod test code is, let me bring it up here, is this, JFYIS. So you can type that in here. And I'll do this kind of interactively here.
That's just for today. This is just
for today.
practice.
Just for today, for practice. So you would type in here today, JFYIS, but on the day of the event, you would put in the code that's on the sheet of paper. It's not going to be this. It's not going to be JFYIS. It's going to be some other code, but that's what you would type into this join a lesson field. Once you type that in, you click on this little arrow, the right arrow, and then the next screen that you'll be presented with is this screen. It'll say, enter your full name and your optional nickname. This is another important part that you, so in the full name, don't enter your name in. What you need to enter in is what this sheet of paper tells you to enter in. For today, I'm going to type in this, but it's going to be a code that each team is going to be assigned a unique number for each team. So for me, it's this, but for you guys, it's going to be something else.
For
in the
today,
optional,
type in whatever you'd like to type in there.
correct.
Just for
And it's
today.
going to be a combination of letters and numbers. Okay. And then the next field is where you type in your club name and your team name. So for me, it might be something like Fairview Flames. I don't know, Flamingos 2.0. Okay. And then you click on join a lesson. All right. After that, it will present you with, if you've successfully logged in, you'll see this screen and it'll say 2023 North American Division Level Test for Book of John. Okay.
What happens if they typed in the wrong code?
So this is what will happen. So in the background, we're going to have people that are running the test. And while you guys are logging in, we'll be able to see everybody that's logged in here. And this is what you entered into your full name field is going to be on this side. And this side, on our right side, we're going to see what you typed in as your team name, the other. Now, if you typed in your the team number correctly in the full name field, you're good. You're set. You don't have to do anything else. Just wait for the testing to begin. If for some reason you type in either the wrong number or you flip-flop it and you put in your club name on the full name field, what's going to happen is we're going to have a team of people that are going to be making sure that your name and your number are in correctly. If not, what we're going to do is, I'm sorry to do, well, I'll do it on me. We're going to remove you from the test. And then we're going to physically go to your station where your team is located and ask you guys to log in again with the correct team number and team name. So let's see what that'll.
Why is it so important that they get that right?
The reason it's important is at least the number is it allows us to accurately and efficiently submit the answers that you submitted as a team to the judges so that the judges can give the right score to the right team. If you put in the wrong number, then we're not going to know which team entered which answer. Does that make sense? So yeah. Any questions so far? So this is what the screen will look like so I removed this team. So I'm going to have to log in again, and maybe I'll put in TS 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then player view, flames, fiery, flamingos, 3.0. And then I'll see that here. Once it's in here, then we will see that it's good. And once all of the teams, I think there are roughly around 150, 160 teams, when everybody is logged in correctly, we will start testing.
Check.
Okay. So now, how does the testing happen? So each team has to designate a person that's going to be their role is their scribe, and they'll be typing in the answers into Nearpod. Okay. So then let's kind of go through this and go through maybe a best case scenario and then maybe two alternate scenarios. So what you'll see on the right side of my screen is me running the test. You won't see this on the day of the testing. What you're actually going to see is the left side of the screen. So just kind of pay attention to this side of the screen. Okay. So we're going to be advancing the slides, and you'll see the slides advance on the left-hand side in real time. And then they'll read this slide, and then we'll move to the next slide. And then we'll say, let the testing begin. Somebody will read the question in English, and then a different person will read the question in Spanish. And then what we'll do is we'll go to the next slide, and then we'll click on Start Activity. Now, as you see here, you can't type in an answer on this screen until I click on Start Activity. But that's okay, because the timer actually starts counting down once this slide is loaded. So you don't need to worry about it. Somebody will say begin, but the actual timer will begin after the counter 3, 2, 1 goes down to 0, and then you can start typing in the answers. This is my answer. And you type in your answer and you click on submit, and it's good. And then the timer will end, and all the teams that answered will be recorded in Nearpod, like here. This was my answer, and it's good. And then the answers that were recorded in here will be given to the judges, not quite in real time, but pretty much in real time, very quickly. We don't have to do this whole handing off paper and sorting of that. As soon as you enter the answer, it's available for Miguel and his team to grab that answer and send it off to the judges. So that was the best case scenario. Let me go through another scenario. And then we'll read the answer for that one. I saw some people answer fourth and new. So let's go to question number 2. So they'll read the answer, the question in English and Spanish. We'll go to the next slide and click on Start Activity. And you see the timer goes. Let's say you type in the answer. This is my first answer. And then the scribe clicks on Submit. And there's still time, but then somebody says, no, actually, that wasn't the right answer. As long as there's time available, you can click on Edit Answer and change the answer, right? So second answer. You can type in second answer and you can click on Submit. And then now, since you submitted the second answer, the first one will just go away. It's like you never even entered anything in there. It'll submit the second answer. But let's say you go, oh shoot, this is a different answer. You can type in another answer. And you type in the third answer, and before you click on submit, the timer ends. It says time's up. Let me ask you a question. Which answer do you think will be sent to the judges? The first, second, or third answer?
The third answer.
The third answer, that is correct. So let's see if that worked. So here, this was my team. It's a third answer. This is my third answer. So the lesson there is, regardless of what you type in there, whatever is in the form when the timer goes to 0, that is what will be submitted to the judges. Okay. I see a hand up by Karen.
So that gets submitted even after the time is up. If you hit the send button after time is up, that answer goes to the judges?
No, so whatever was typed in there and whatever was filled in that field, even if you don't click on submit, whatever is in that field at the time when the timer goes to 0 is the answer that's submitted to the judges.
Even if you do not hit the submit button?
Even if you do not hit the submit button.
Wow,
correct.
that's a game changer. Okay.
Yeah.
I had 2 other questions.
Okay.
Will the teams be allowed to change scribes if they need to? If they
Yes.
find that one is getting too stressed typing, they
Yes.
can change scribes?
Yes. So,
and the last question
yes.
is, will the questions be read in French or they're just read twice, once in English, once in Spanish?
Good question. So the main one is English and Spanish only.
So French
so
will
that's-
not be read.
French
Well-
is read, but in a separate session. They're running their own session.
Okay.
And there's actually a Korean group also running separately, but they're going to read their questions in Korean separately.
Okay, because when we've been practicing, I read the question 3 times to give them a sense of how, so I should just be reading the questions twice, would be
Correct.
more
2 times.
accurate.
Yeah.
2
Okay,
times.
2 times.
Correct.
And
Okay.
will there be handwritten backup or everything
Yes,
is just
we'll get-
computer? Oh, you'll
We'll
get
get to
them
that.
later.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Thank
Okay.
you.
So all good questions, great questions. I see some more hands. I forgot what the first question was. So basically, as long as whatever is in there last is what's submitted to the judges, that's one. The scribe question, we say designate one person as a scribe, but we've also seen it. For example, there's no requirement that it can only be one scribe. We've seen some teams pass around the computer, for example, and if it's, Johnny's question that he knows the answer to, maybe he can type in the answer. So, but the most efficient we've seen is usually Johnny would tell the scribe, hey, this is my answer. And he sees the scribe typing in the answer and they just type it in. But there's no, rule that says you can't have other people type in answers into Nearpod from your team. That make sense? Okay. Let's see. Let's go to some other questions. Vera, Justice, and then Mira.
So the monitors, do they write what the scribe writes, or they write what the team like collectively agrees on? Because I know for last time, when we had the competition, we were saying stuff and we changed our answer, but the monitor was just writing what we wrote and not writing what we were discussing.
Right.
Okay.
So
Let me answer
Marilyn,
that.
you want to take that? Yep.
Okay. The monitor is to write down the answer that you all agree on, which should be what goes into Nearpod. Okay. The Nearpod answer and what you agree. Now, they're not going to write down your discussion. John says this, Peter said this other one, Mary said this other answer, and you're having a discussion. They're not going to write that down.
Yep.
You need to make sure they know what the final answer is.
Yes, that's what I'm talking about, the final answer, not like what she said or what he said. Right.
It has to be the final answer. Now, what some teams do is they write down the answer on a piece of paper and hand it to the monitor, and that's what they want the monitor to type. Some teams have the monitor sit next to the computer and they write what you put into Nearpod. And some teams verbally tell the monitor. All 3 are acceptable. So your team needs to decide, how are you going to get the answer to the monitor? All right. Any of those methods are fine. You can tell them, you can write it, or they can copy it up in Nearpod, but they will only put down one answer. They will not be putting down your discussion.
Correct. Okay. So that perfectly okay, hold on. Justice is next.
I was asking if we accidentally delete our answer and the monitor has the answer, does that still count?
It will. Yeah.
It will. Yeah, go ahead.
It will.
And, and my other question is, if the team answers a question with a different answer than the monitor, which one counts?
The Nearpod answer.
Okay.
So if it's blank and there's an answer for monitor, then it'll be the monitor ones. But if there's, your Nearpod answer is answer A and the monitor's answer is answer B, then the judges will be instructed to grade answer A from Nearpod. That's the source of truth. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Good question. Okay, next. Who is the next one? I think Mira.
Mhm.
Regarding the question, would there be any screens for the clubs to see still the question as they're answering?
Yes.
Because on the Nearpod, you see the whole question. So
Right. Good question. So we will have PowerPoint versions of the test up on big screens at the same time.
perfect. Thanks.
Okay. And Rachel, and then Joseph.
I'm a little confused as if we need our computer for the team personally, or is the monitor having the computer?
So what I'm showing here is your team's computer screen, meaning each team has their own computer. I'm going to go into the monitor section next. The monitor will have their own computer. So essentially each grouping will have two computers at their desk. One is your team's computer and the other one is the monitor's computer.
Okay, thank you.
And then Nearpod is what you guys will be logged into. The monitor will be logged into something else, a Google Sheet, which I'll show a little bit later.
Let's
Okay.
take the next two questions and then we need to continue
Move
on
on
and
to
we'll
next,
go back
yeah.
and pick up. We may answer some of these questions as we go.
Okay. All right. Elena and then Joseph and I guess, yeah.
If we decide to write down our questions, do we need to bring our own paper or will you provide the paper?
Papers provided.
Okay. Joseph?
Okay, so what if the other team sees our screens? Like, for example, question one,
Answer.
let's say that the team is close to us and they see our answer, then just
I think they're going to be far enough apart, right?
Yeah, the teams are quite far apart. You have about, I think it's 8 feet in one direction, 10 feet the other direction. Plus you're in front of your screen, so you're blocking the screen. So between those two things, it's going to be very hard for them. Plus they're going to be busy doing their own thing, their own answers. So I don't think you need to worry about that. So
Okay.
if you would continue on with what Nearpod does, and we will pick up the questions from Alan and Adriana in a little bit.
Okay.
We won't forget you. We need to finish this thought here.
All right. So now let's say, so this was the answer to question number 2. Let's say we ask this question in English and Spanish, and then we start the activity. But for whatever reason, we hope it doesn't happen, but Nearpod doesn't work. You can't type anything here. Maybe you, I don't know, disconnected from Nearpod, or your internet connection is not working. Well, in that scenario where you cannot type in an answer, just like every other scenario, to be honest, the monitor will be typing your answers into their own Google Sheet specifically for your team. So this is kind of a sample one from a previous test. But for every question you answer and you type in an answer here, every question, the monitor will be typing your answer into this Google Sheet. Whether you type an answer into Nearpod or not, so at the end of the test, this monitor sheet should be 100% filled out. I know I've had some questions before. Oh, should the monitor only type in the answer if we fail to answer in Nearpod? No, every single answer you type into Nearpod or you attempt to enter into Nearpod should also be entered into here. Let's say for this question, question number 5, you don't have an answer. Then the monitor should write something like no answer or something like that. But it should not be blank. By every single answer, you either enter into Nearpod or want to enter into Nearpod, but because Nearpod is not working, every answer your team is able to answer should be entered into this Google Sheet. Okay. And then the last thing I would say is let me give you a little visual of what the judges will see. So for every question, each there's going to be a set of judges. So for example, question number 1 is going to be given to judge grouping number 1, team number 1, and they will grade the answers for every single team for question number 1. So this time there will be 150 teams. So this set of judges will answer the grade the question for question number 1 for every single team that is participating this year. What you'll see here is 2 columns, right? The first one is the answer that you entered into Nearpod. The second one is the answer that the monitor entered into their Google Sheet. And like I said earlier, if these 2 match, that's an easy decision for them. They just grade the answer. If these do not match, one is one answer and the other one is a different answer, then the judges will be instructed to grade the Nearpod answer. If for some reason this is blank and this has an answer, or vice versa, has an answer and this doesn't have an answer, then what the judges will be instructed to do is grade off of the one answer that you have. Okay? And then if it's both blank, then the assumption is you didn't know the answer. But you should, and maybe that's a good call out. If you don't have an answer, like you actually genuinely don't know the answer to the question, then what you should do in Nearpod is say, type something in here that says, I don't know the answer, don't know, or no answer. And that will let the judges know that, hey, it wasn't a technical issue, but your team just didn't know what the answer was, right?
Okay. Now, why don't we go to the 2 questions we have hands raised?
All right, Ellen and then Kalaya.
Are we allowed to type the answer into something else and then copy and paste it into Nearpod?
What like
you should only
text
have
document
one,
or something? Yeah.
Yeah, you should only have one thing open on your computer,
Yeah.
and that is your Nearpod session. You should have everything else closed.
So we can't.
You should type it directly into Nearpod. Somebody can write it on a piece of paper if you like. Let's say the answer was Nebuchadnezzar, and you don't know the scribe doesn't know how to spell it. It can be written down, and then they can just type it in. I think you will find it very cumbersome to try to type in something else, copy and paste, because one, you could miscopy it, like only get part of it, and it takes you twice as long. You have to do 2 steps instead of 1. So that's just not advisable.
Well, we could hear the first answer in English, then we could type it in while they're doing it in Spanish. Then once we finally get Nearpod, we can paste it in if we aren't fast enough to just type it once we finally get Nearpod.
When they read the English question first, yes, they'll be reading the English question second half of the time, so that doesn't work. And 2, it's just easy. It's better if you have 30 seconds or 45 seconds. They have increased the time that you get to answer because of typing. So all the questions, you have more time than you would have had if you were writing answers on pieces of paper. We've increased all the time allotments. So you should have plenty of time to type the answer. Let's say you don't finish typing. You're typing Nebuchadnezzar, don't get the Nezer on there, right? The monitor will have time to type the whole thing, and the judges can see that you were in the midst of typing Nebuchadnezzar when it quit. So they will take that into account. But there should only be one thing open on your computer, and that is
it gets a little into a gray area if we say, okay, you could have other programs open. There may be other programs that are open that can potentially help. I don't know.
Yeah, or could hinder your
could hinder.
computer. Have background things running. So no, you just should have only Nearpod open on your computer.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Does spelling count?
No, spelling does not count.
Yeah.
Can you just read it?
Say that again.
Can you read it if it in the English version, as you said earlier, that would you'd have to listen to both versions or something like that. But can you also just read it off the screen as well?
Yes, you can read it off the screen.
There's a reason why there's words on the screen.
Right. You can read it off the screen yourself. Yes, that's perfectly fine.
Right. Is it Kalaya? And then,
So I just was wondering, you said that there could be a time if we want to change our answer in the Nearpod. Does the monitor write every time to change it, or just the last one?
The last one.
The last one. Yeah. Okay, and then the Raleigh Spanish Church, I believe.
Okay, and what about if let's say the team's computer got frozen, but the
Yes.
monitor's still running? How do
Yes.
you, what about the answer? If the monitor get the answer, but the team's computer got frozen.
Mhm.
So, but you said before that the judges, they're gonna judge, the near part, but they don't have it because computer got frozen.
Right. It'll be
Right.
something like this. This will be blank. Let's say the team's near pod answer will be blank, but then the monitor's answer will have an answer. Then the judges will be instructed to grade off of the monitor's answer if this is blank.
To put it another way, if there are two answers, one in Nearpod, one in monitor, they go by Nearpod. If there's only one answer, they go off the answer they have.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Okay, good question. Shanae and then Alan.
Are we gonna be allowed to test the question?
To challenge?
Challenge.
Yes,
Good
we'll go
question.
into that in a minute.
Okay. And then Alan?
What if both the computers get frozen? The monitors and the person who's answering.
When the monitor gets back up, gets back connected, they will put in the answers in arrears. In other words, they can go back and fill in once they get connected again. And
So then in that instance, you should write your answers on that piece of paper, on the pieces of paper that we're going to give to you.
Right. All right. So I'm going to go a little bit over what the monitors are doing. We've discussed that a little bit. But just so you kind of know, the monitors will be in the Google Sheet. Theirs is not timed. Okay. So that's why they can go back and do things in arrears. So if they type whatever your last answer, whatever you instruct them, their job is to make you successful. Okay. Their job is to help you be successful. They can't give you answers, but they can help you make sure your answers get to the judges. So make sure they know what it is you want typed in there. You don't have to write it down. Fact is, there's some paper in your registration sheet, but there won't be enough paper. If you're writing all your answers to the judges, you'll need to let us know, and we will give you more paper. Because not all teams want to write it down. Some teams would rather just tell them or have them look on the Nearpod screen. So any of those methods is fine, but we will have paper there. But if you go down, make sure it is written down. All right, that needs to be written down. The question number and what your answer is, so they can go back and fill in their answers. I hope that made sense with them. Now, judging, Key went over a little bit how judging works. So Key, why don't we go into how challenges work?
Okay, so the form may look similar to this, maybe not exactly like this, but is it after every half? So after the first half and after the second half,
right?
You'll, on that sheet of paper that we give you, you'll be given a link to a challenge form. And again, either after the first half or the second half, the challenge form will look something similar to this, where you're going to type in your team's name, the union, conference, church, club, all of that, where you belong, are coming from. And then the question number, the number of the question that you want to challenge. Let's say it's question number 46. And then you would, in here, type in why you think the question or answer has an issue. So Marilyn does a better job at explaining it, but it's not necessarily, you won't know what you got on that question, at least in terms of the answer, but maybe it's written in a confusing way, or maybe the question said it was true, but it was actually false. The official answer was false, so maybe you would challenge something like that. But Marilyn, you want to add to that?
You're not challenging because you wrote an answer and you think the judges are going to misunderstand what you wrote. This is a challenge that the question was poorly written, so it was confusing, or it was ambiguous, or it could have more than one answer because, like one of the challenges we had in the past was the question quoted part of the verse, but if the question had quoted all of the verse, there was 2 different answers possible. So they challenged, saying that that was confusing because they gave the verse, they quoted only part of the verse, but the answer could have been 2 different answers. And that went to the judges, and the judges agreed that it was confusing. So the judges took either answer, but that's up to the judges to do. You'll be doing 1 form per question. So captains and scribes, if you see a question that you want to challenge, write it down someplace on the back of the manila envelope, on a spare piece of paper, whatever, wherever you can, because you will need to remember that question number and why you're questioning it. We had some challenges at the union level where the captain came up and says, we didn't like question 23. And I said, well, what about it? Well, we can't remember. We didn't like it. That will not go to the judges. You have to have a reason. We have to know the question and the reason why you're challenging it. So write yourself a note. They just couldn't remember after 30 more questions what exactly. They thought they could remember, but when it came to actually giving us what the challenge was, they couldn't do it. All right. So it's very important that you note what it is you want to challenge and why you want to challenge it. And that later, because it's at halftime at the end that you can report this, that you can do that. Monitors or your director can help you with the challenging and wording it and so on. That's why it's done at halftime at the end, because sometimes it's hard to put down what your challenge is, how to write it out. So your director, your coach, they can help you write the challenge, but they don't submit the challenge. It needs to be the captain who submits the challenge. We have 1 hand raised by Joan.
Yes, would that also be an opportunity if the monitor and the what's the other group called, the testers?
The scribe or
the
team?
The team. If the team, say the team's monitor froze when they were trying to submit the answer,
okay,
but the answer that the monitor had submitted had so subsequently went through.
Mm-hmm.
Would they, and I knew that happened, would we challenge that question?
No, that if it is helpful if the monitor, and we'll talk about it when we do monitor training.
Sure.
If say the computer froze and they write an answer that beside the answer that the team had, they put parentheses, team's computer froze or something like that. That gives them the judges an idea of why there was no answer from the team. It's not necessary, but it is helpful. We've had monitors do that, and it really is helpful when the monitor, and we'll talk about that in monitor training. But yeah, the monitor is their backup. They have their back.
Very good. Thank you.
Andrea? Yeah.
Yes, so in the question challenge form, we need to write our church, the club, the number of the question, and describe the challenge. But what about what goes before that? Do we have to put something else?
Your team designation, you know, what your team number is, a number that you, the code that you put in a Nearpod is your team designation. And it'll look, it'll be a letter and then 6 numbers. And so that's what you're going to type in there.
Okay, that's it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Now, Oscar, do you want to describe what happens when their computer goes down? What do they do?
Hey everyone. So if that happens, if we got some issue with the Nearpod, don't worry, nothing is gonna happen. You are not gonna lose points. That's why we have the monitor. So we're gonna keep going with the monitors. If you have an issue with the Nearpod, just raise your hand, and we have some tech people on the floor that will be coming to your table, and we will help you to fix any issues with Nearpod or your computer. So in the meantime, you will be giving all the answers to your monitor. He's going to be typing in on Google Sheets. So you have 2 options: giving the answers verbally to him, or giving a piece a piece of paper. But those answers is going to be for the specific time given to that specific questions. So how we explained at the beginning, and judges is going to take the answer if they don't see any answers from the Nearpod for your team, and they're going to take the answers from your monitors. And also we're going to tell them verbally that this team have any issues, just to double check that everything, I mean, they will be take your answers from the monitors, Google Sheets.
Yeah, we will be viewing the answers that they come in, the tech team. And if they see a gap or see a problem, they may come to your table to see what's going on. But the testing does not stop. So you keep answering questions and the tech person will be there getting your computer online, getting it all fixed up. It shouldn't distract you from the testing itself. We'll get the technology back to you while you're still doing your answers. And then as soon as it's working, we'll hand you back your laptop and you keep going. So don't think that you have to be fixing the problem and listening to the questions at the same time. Your job is to listen to those questions and give answers. The tech team will get you back connected and get you going back in Nearpod.
And also we have different people that is going to be checking the answers from Nearpod and the answers from your monitor. If we see that something is missing, also we're gonna go to your table and check to see what is going on.
Right. There's going to be quite a few tech people. I think we have 20 on the floor. So there will be plenty of people to help, to keep you connected. Our job as tech is to make this an enjoyable experience, that everything goes smoothly. We have your back as far as technology.
Yes.
All right. Any other questions?
There was a question in the chat. They asked, if a team brings an iPad instead of a computer, do we have to have a keyboard? We highly recommend a physical keyboard because it's very difficult to type in longer answers into a virtual keyboard. So we really recommend that you bring a keyboard.
Not having a keyboard is giving yourself a handicap. That is like tying one hand behind your back, trying to do this test. Bring a keyboard. Karen.
Sounds like writing the answers on the paper is just a backup for the monitor. We won't be turning in those written answers, will we?
Correct. That's just a backup for the monitor if you want to use it. Okay. It is not necessary, but it is available. We want each team to be as comfortable as possible that their answers are getting to the judges. So we're just going to try to provide all the technology we can, and paper's a technology too.
Yeah, but there's not enough people to really compare them to the Google Sheets. Okay.
No.
Not the same as it has been prior to this.
No, this is just to get the answer to the monitor. Some teams do not feel comfortable saying the answer or having them, they're passing the computer around so the monitor can't see the Nearpod screen. Therefore, they write it down.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
I got a question that may come up from the teams is, can the teams type in the monitor's computer in the case of Nearpod drops?
No.
In that scenario, you would write it on paper and the monitor would type it into the Google Sheet.
Yeah. We have a question in the chat. Are families allowed in the auditorium? Let me go over how the room is set up. I think I have the screen available.
While you're doing that, Marilyn, there's another question. What if a person is not in complete uniform? And what happens there?
It gets reported to Jean Clapp, the director, and we will deal with it there. It's, let me see here. So yeah, that they just report, it just gets reported back to Jean. I don't know what he does about it. We've never actually had a problem. Because by the time you've been to to area, conference, and union levels of testing, everybody's got their uniform fixed. All right, what I'm sharing on the screen is what the auditorium looks like. You'll be coming in this main entrance. Teams register over here. Monitors register over here. There are staircases here. All the family members, anybody who's not got a wristband will be going upstairs. Above this area here, and above here is stadium seating. This used to be an ice hockey rink. And so they have seating here and seating here. The area back over here will be blocked off because you can't see. The stage is right here. The judges will be in this corner. Your tech teams will be here. Your support for the floor is stationed here, but they'll be walking around. The French team will be here. The Korean teams will be here. And then we'll have places where we have photographs and so on and so forth. This area here, in case you're curious, is where the broadcast is going to be coming from. Where they're going to do all the broadcasting. They have a camera with a boom. They have cameras here. They have a roving camera. It's really cool. Those of us who like tech. So I hope that kind of helps you a little bit. But yeah, you come in here, you just come directly in the building. There's bathrooms on the side here and here, and first aid back there. So hopefully it'll be pretty straightforward. And I don't know if you can see, if I make this bigger, your tables will be set up like this. There'll be a table long ways. It's a skinny table. And then you'll have chairs, 3 on the side for your team members and the monitor on the end. If the monitor is going to be reading off your Nearpod screen, switch the monitor and one of your team members so that the scribe and the monitor sit next to each other. So basically you can sit in your 6 chairs any way that works for your team. If I can make this up here, made that a little bigger so that you can arrange how you need to sit so it works well for you guys on your team. So the monitor can sit over here next to the scribe, or the monitor can be at the end. But the distance between these chairs is about 10 feet and about 10 feet this way. So there's a pretty good distance. This is a fairly large venue. Any other questions?
There are a couple questions in the chat room, so I'll say a couple of them. Will there be a break time, and are snacks allowed? That's one. And then we've heard that during inspection, if you don't pass inspection, points may be deducted.
Okay, no, points are not deducted if you're not in uniform. It just gets reported, and Jean decides what to do about it, but points will not be deducted. There will be a 15-minute break between the first half and the second half, and yes, you can eat snacks. I would recommend that you drink some water, that you go to the bathroom. Which is another thing. If you need to go to the bathroom in the middle of the testing, it has been decided that you can be escorted to the bathroom and escorted back. You have to raise your hand. We have to find you an escort. The escort will take you and bring you back. You will miss whatever questions are going on while you're at the bathroom. So not recommended, but sometimes an emergency happens. And so we do have people that will escort you back and forth if need be. If you have a first aid emergency, you get a bloody nose, something happens, we do have first aid. Notify one of the roving techs and we will get you to first aid.
Okay. And there's one question, a good question. So the question is, if the team runs out of time while writing the answer into Nearpod, can the monitor write the whole answer and send it afterwards? And the way I describe it is similar to the way that, so there's going to be some level of discretion that the monitor is going to have to make in that, just like in previous years, if a team is writing on a piece of paper and time is up, well, that's when time is up. You can't start the first letter of, a 7-part answer and say, oh, well, I ran out of time, and complete the 7-part answer. If it's like the last couple letters of an answer, maybe, but that's where it gets a little, I think the monitor can have some discretion there.
Yeah,
but
the way I would explain it is, let's say the answer is Peter, James, and John, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And you're writing Peter, James, and John. You've said that to the monitor and you've given it to them in a piece of paper, or however you've gotten it to the monitor. Whatever you told the monitor, however you told them, they put in the whole thing you told them, okay? Where you're typing, how fast you type, you may not get Peter, James, and John. You may get Peter, James, and J. Well, that's what the judges will see Peter, James, and J, and they will see Peter, James, and John from the monitor side by side. And the judges will take Peter, James, and John, okay? Because you gave the answer to the monitor, the complete answer. So just make sure that you're communicating well with your monitor, all right? We have a hand from Justice. Justin. Oh, Justice. Yes.
I wanted to ask, oh, I forgot my question. Sorry.
Okay. There are a couple more questions in the chat. Alternates, where would they be and when can they switch alternates? That's one.
Switch alternates at the half.
Okay.
And that question has not been answered. It's been posed. They'll either be in some chairs at the very back on the main floor, or they'll be up in the gallery. I have not received an answer back on where they would like them to be. You will be told where to go, one or the other, once I find out and at registration. But I cannot answer exactly where you're going to be.
And then one more question about what if the monitor really needs to use the bathroom?
Now that's a little more difficult. If the monitor needs to go to the bathroom, I make sure that the answers are written down and the monitor can run over the bathroom, come back, and then catch up from what you've written down. But that gets a little more complicated. We prefer monitors not to take bathroom breaks if they can possibly avoid it. Sandra.
I have two questions. So one is, so alternates for alternate monitors, do they also sit with the other alternates, or so alternate team members? So all alternates sitting in the same area?
The backup monitors will be up in the gallery. They'll be upstairs. If we need you for some reason, you'll get a text message from the phone number provided.
Okay. My second question is, as for monitors, if there, like some questions, there are, potentially like maybe there's 3 answers. And in the past, teams just kind of like write a string of answers and they've got 5. As a monitor, then we just take the 3 and we put it in there, or do we put in all 5, knowing obviously that the judges will make that decision?
You put whatever they give you.
Okay.
And we're going to go into monitor training in about 2 minutes.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. We can take one more question. Justice.
I remember my question. My question was about the restrooms. What if the line is long for the restrooms before the time runs out and then you have to go back to your seat?
That's a judgment call that'll be done by Jean Clapp, who is the director of PDE. Generally, there should be enough bathrooms. There are 6 bathrooms altogether, and they have many stalls, so I think we'll be okay. All right, we need to close up the team training and get to monitor training. Thank you all very much. Anybody's welcome at the monitor training.
Oh, one last question. Will runners be used in this competition?
No, there will be no runners.
Thank you.
All right, so let's welcome all the monitors that are joining us. And we have a raised hand from Jennifer from College Station while they're jumping on.
So this is Catherine, and I had a question about, like, in the test in Union, they said they were asking how many disciples were at the Sea of Tiberias and what were their names. So I had told the correct answer to the monitor, but in my answer, I accidentally skipped one name in the middle. I knew it, but I accidentally skipped one name in the middle. But the monitor had submitted the answer before me. Would it still count if I had accidentally missed one name in the question?
No, they're going to go by your Nearpod answer, so it has one name missing. Now, the monitor can put a note on there with your comment saying the team accidentally left off one name. They did have the name correct. And you can put that note there. It'll be up to the judges whether they take that note into consideration or not.
Okay, thank you.
And we need to get